Okay, so this webinar is about the time and contact point, trying to help everybody understand how that works. It's really difficult to show exactly with that. I have some good videos for the training on here you'll be able to see tonight, but probably one of the biggest questions I get is really kind of what is the time and contact point. Well, really the timing contact point, the training for it really is essentially is how you build everything off of. So anything that you're doing with like the float, the contain, delivery, and all that stuff, you're really trying to either aid to that timing contact point. But you should be training prior to all that by just working and isolating that out of the bunker training that we do. Now that's not the bunker. That's not like a bunker shot where you open the stance and some of that stuff and open the face. It's traditional, ball striking setup, and then you're trying to draw the line, and then we'll go into that part of the training later on tonight. But this is a really good video that I found with Roy McElroy, where he's hitting just a little kind of it's probably, I don't know, 30-yard shot, something like that. But it really shows you how he uses the sole of the club as it's going through the ball, and here you'll see he just swings back. Now, when you're doing this in a ball striking, he's doing a regular shot, a regular pitch shot. We would have more of a traditional, a little wider stance, so that you're working on ball striking, not just really chipping. So you have a wider stance, more neutral, not open or anything like that. You can see he swings it back. It's probably actually more of about a 20-yard shot, I'd say. And you can see here what happens is you can see just in this little motion, there's the right wrist bend. As he swings back, there's the float. Here he contains that shaft, and then right there you can see he's going to slide that sole of the club. This is a great video that shows where the sole of the club replaces the top side of the ball here. So we'll see if I can. Let's see if I can just do it with this. So the equator, I'm going to try to do this with the equator. The center of the next frame, the sole of the club replaces that. And then there's going to be a slight divot and more of a brush, but there would be a thump sound. Now you're not going to hear that on this video because slow motion doesn't have the sound and audio on it, but if you look, there's grass flying here. So you would hear kind of a thump sound, even though it's a small shot. So it's like perfect to understand. You can see how low the club is through here as well. Where most amateurs would happen is they come in here, they exit somewhere either behind this or they in front of this or whatever it is, or kind of level equator with the ball and blade it, or behind it and so forth. So their energy's off. And really what the timing contact point is, it's really not a lot of regard to form necessarily. It's just where you use your hand-eye coordination to place the sole of the club and you get the shaft alignment at that one moment. Not the grip alignment point, not sustain, none of that stuff. It's just literally it's just right on point with the golf ball, and that is where all the energy comes out. And that's the only thing that separates really all the great players. They have that, where the energy all comes out at that perfect point. After they hit the ball, there's pros that have different ways of moving through it with their hips and their hands and so forth. We have a way we believe is most efficient, or more efficient, I should say, than what most people would do. But there's a lot of different ways. But the one thing you don't get an option on is how that energy comes into the to ball, like this right here. And I always try to talk a lot about the sole of the club, because a lot of the instructors you'll either heard from or had lessons from and so forth, are going to be talking about how to lead the hands, get them way out here forward, and then try to get the leading edge to really drive through the ball. And that has proven to be kind of a death move. It gets the hands trapped. You'll end up with a lot of right hand release or a big block with the left hand. The club gets stuck and jammed, and it's just very, very, very inefficient. You want to try to get that all lined up, slight forward, but the sole of the club replaces really kind of like the middle of the golf ball, if you drew that. And it goes under. You hear a heavy thump, and you can see this is where we'll talk about resistance later. So he has this audio, and then here's kind of the resistance that the ground and contact has, that he has with it. He's kind of made that happen, and so the club's staying very low. Most amateurs' club would be rising quite a bit through here, and then also their handle would be probably going more in the direction of this way. That's the odds. You'll see some players out there that are taking golf lessons, and their hands will be way too far out here in front, and their clubs like this, where you can tell they're taking lessons, but that's not going to work either, because just because your hands are in front, most of you that have been experienced here know this, is that if they've been experienced taking golf lessons and been around the block, so to speak, everybody's heard keep your hands way out in front of the golf ball and all that. If you do that, that does not mean that you will hit the sole of the club where it needs to be. It doesn't mean it at all. It really has no reference to it at all. It just means that you're de-lofting the club. You're probably going to get the leading edge stuck if you do hit the timing contact point correct. It'll be probably too low as well. And we'll go in that in more detail in the follow-up video for this. But having your hands in front of the golf ball is very, 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 very overrated, and it has nothing to do with where a player uses the sole. A lot of where they use the sole of the club and line the shaft up is you can't see it in this picture, but it's his hand-eye. It's a feeling, it's a sensitivity, it's awareness of where they. And you can. The great thing is, it's probably one of the only sports where you can train true timing. What I mean by that is, if you're in baseball, if you have a baseball player and you have two kids that have the identical swing, I mean literally the identical swing, both of them have the same exact swing form-wise, and one can whiffs every time the ball comes through, and the other one hits home runs or base hits every time. What they would say in baseball is the player can just put the bat on the ball, and in golf they don't say that. They don't understand. It's a kind of this myth and don't understand. But the great thing in baseball, it's really tricky to teach that player how to be able to find that ball. That's very, very, very tricky because it's very hard to train for. In golf, we have ways we can train for. I have one in particular. You don't need 1,000. You just need one really efficient way, and that's how we use the bunker training. And so I've got a couple of videos here to show you how we do that, and then, of course, the follow-up videos always are going to help. So this is a lady that I'm working. It's her first lesson. She's a complete novice. I mean, just getting the grip in the ballpark, and you'll see some bad forms and all this stuff. And you can see we've got a line here, and as you can see, as I'm having her swing, all I'm trying to do is, even there, you'll see that she hit behind that. Most of these she'll probably hit slightly behind. But even like here, if you look, this isn't horrible form. Even we're not working on form. Now, when we watched her full swing, she was flipping the club vertical, she was cocking it, and it couldn't hit the ground, couldn't do anything. And if you watch here, you'll see, I'll move it along here, but even here you'll start to see she's starting to apply pressure. That was a good swing where you could see in her downswing, I'm making her create an audio. Or acoustics is like what Wes Short would always say. He likes to hear loud acoustics. And if you look at her form here, is that perfect? No, that's pretty darn good. I can tell you, if you get through that form-wise, and that doesn't mean you're going to hit it great, but the form-wise here is fantastic for a beginning golfer to be able to apply pressure and create sound and so forth. So when you're in the bunker, what you're trying to do, you're trying to have, you draw this line right here, and you're trying to get the sole of the club to strike right in the middle of that. You don't really want the sole of the club to strike way out here in front. You could strike slightly in front, maybe an inch or two, but really just you want that sole of the club to be not obviously anything back here is a no-go. Anything you strike back there is a no-go. But you don't want to strike way out here either, because then you start chasing it, superficially doing it, and you get the leading edge stuck, and it breaks the hand action down. You want that sole of the club to train to hit exact, just like that right there. And then when you get it to hit, you don't want it to do like she's doing back here, where there's no audio. She's hitting sand. So if you watch here, she'll hit it. I should have done this in slow motion. But you can see there's a little bit of sand flying here. And I have an advanced player that you'll see here in a little bit. You'll see the difference of the sound and resistance and the amount of sand that comes out. That's not near enough sand. So that means that I want her to use her ears and her eyes to create more depth with the club face. So I want the sole of the club's hitting okay right there, but I want it to go down deeper into that. So if it goes down deeper into the sand here, what will happen is it'll resist more as it's going through. If it resists more, it creates better hand action and better feel and awareness. Okay. So that is so we go. The way I teach this, and some of you have had this lesson before if you've ever trained with me in live sessions, you start with the hit location. That's the sole of the club, strike location. Then the next part is we want audio, we want sound, and we want that to sound very heavy. It should, if you're splashing sand, is that better? That's better than nothing. But I want that. I want it to go in pretty deep into there, so then it gives you resistance back through the hands, because that club will come in here and hit through this area, and that sand will provide resistance in the hands, and that gives you more of a decelerated feel and less kind of accelerated flipping feel like this, where that club starts flipping up, the club head starts going this way, flipping up and all that. That's all acceleration and no resistance. We want that club head to be resisting as it hits here. So strike location, we want here, we want resistance or audio, and then resistance. And if you get those three things, the last thing you have on the list, which strike location is the same thing, we want the divot obviously to be square. So when you hit strike location here, so we don't want you to hit strike location but the divot cutting towards her left foot like that, or her right foot. Now what you'd find is it's easier to make a louder sound going swinging across your body, and then when you go away from your body, your divot's going this way away from your body, it's usually thinner and it's usually behind, which would be the same energy you would find on the golf course. So it teaches you how to fix that baseline plane as well, but by watching the divot location that you're doing here. So you just have to really, when you do this training, you don't want to just get in there and machine gun it, swing thousands of them and not listen to yourself. You're trying to make one swing and really learn. And if you can't, if you just use your ears and your eyes, those are your two best senses for this, and they will start to correct form. And if you video yourself, I highly recommend everybody videoing yourself doing this drill in a bunker. Why not do it in the grass? The grass will not, if grass is all you have, we'll work with it. But as soon as you can find a bunker, train in a bunker. The reason why is that the bunker will allow the club to get underneath the ground, and it provides resistance here, and it gives you audio every time you swing. So if you miss the ground, like when she first started, what I didn't show here is she first started, she couldn't even hit the sand. I had to just teach her. Well, she asked, how do I hit it? And I said, well, it's impossible for me to teach you how to hit it because I'm not in your body. I mean, it's not a form for it. There's not a form to hit 3 inches lower than what you are. You have to let the club. You have to use your eyes and use the sole of the club. And it confused her at first, and then she started going, oh, okay. And she started to figure it out. And then as we started to look at her forms, by the time she finished, it wasn't perfect, but for a beginning golfer, there's a lot of scratch players that would like to have some of the forms that she had coming through towards the end. You'll see she's applying more pressure. That's a little flipped right there, but again, that's half of what she had before. And it wasn't, the problem there was she didn't have enough sand. That time you could see her pause a little bit in that float. You could see her trying to really focus and get down there to it. And when she got down to it, she started to have better resistance. The shaft lined up a little bit better, and so forth. And that's literally just, that's a 30-minute session and just practicing getting that. And so there's some bad lower body mechanics here. There's some bad upper body mechanics here. The shaft alignment is plenty good enough to play good golf right now. The sole of the club's in a good enough spot to hit good shots right now. But there's a lot of work we can move forward with. But if she can't hit that timing contact point, I don't care what you teach her. You can teach her grip, you can teach her perfect lower body mechanics, you can teach her setup, you can teach her whatever, and she's going to whip every single time or hit behind it or top it. And so would everybody else in the world. So what you have to do is you have to train it, no matter what level you are, master that sole of the club, get it coming in, strike location, the divot angle, and then you have the audio, and then you have the resistance. And I'll be making a video. The follow-up will have that on there with the sounds. You'll hear the sounds because you want to match up those sounds. Like when I'm demonstrating the sounds I'm making, if it doesn't sound as loud as mine sounds, make it sound that loud. But you don't want to do it with force, and that's the key. You don't want to start swinging as hard as you can. And if you look at the swing I'm having her train in, you can see, just like a junior golfer, I'm going to have her just a small backswing because I know good and well there's no way she's going to be able to find that spot from back here. So we have to train in these short zones. So anyway, that's what our whole philosophy is based on, is is improving the timing contact point. There's several things inside the timing contact point. And it can be trained. That's the beauty. I train it every single day, and every single player that comes out there when they train in a bunker, I can't remember the last time I had a player come out that got in the bunker and didn't improve when they came out, like drastically improved. So here's a different player here. You'll see now this is after a 3-day school. This is the 3rd day. Very very good players you'll see, but you'll see how he's applying pressure. He's got the strike location, if you see here, kind of blow this up where you can see it. So he's got strike location. He's went in deeper, so because he's went in deeper, he has better he has resistance through the club head, so you see better alignments with the lead arm like we talk about. So if we back him up, so we let him go out of transition here. He's applying that pressure, but he's doing it softly, and then he's got the perfect strike location here. The sound is very loud. It's in slow motion, so you can't hear it. Very loud sound. Resistance from the sand. That resistance from the sand is teaching him. It's coming back and teaching him this feel of the hands. His hands are not making that resistance. His eyes are. He's using his eyes and his ears to create these forms. So that's probably the biggest difference in what we do versus anybody else. It is the biggest difference. What most people are trying to do, they're going out and they're trying to create lag in their swing, like the angle that the club comes down. That would be our containment, or they're trying to create wrist angles at impact and so forth. And all that stuff really has it doesn't have anything to do with like using your hand-eye. I'll put it that way. Now I'll give you an example though what that means, because you have lag, you can have lag and you can cock the club back more than that if you want. It does not mean you're going to hit right here. I don't care, because it's a hand-eye issue. It's not how much lag this is, because when that club comes uncocked, that club will come uncocked for every player down here around the ball, and when it does. It doesn't mean it could hit back here, it could hit in front, it could hit left, it could hit right, there's all kinds of different ways it could hit. And that's why you want to train it. You want to train the control of where that club is going at all times. And so I think most of you know that. Some of the new ones on here may not, obviously, but with all the scores that I'm getting emails on and text, it sounds like everybody's got this figured out and is on the right track, but I can't emphasize enough how important and why we do it. If somebody doesn't have lag, now this again is theory. If they're so let's say like he's got plenty of lag here, but let's just say his club head is casted down lower here. He could still hit this spot. Don't think for a second he can. I've worked with a guy that played on this Champions Tour, not West, but a guy that played on the Champions Tour, made a lot of money, played on the PJ Tour, that casted the club, that dumped the club early. And it was definitely a cast, but he could hit this spot every single time he woke up. Now, if he had a little better angle, well, yeah, it'd make it even better. But if he increases his angle, here's the kicker. You increase your angle and you miss this spot one way or the other, and the resistance one way or the other, or the direction, you just ruined your game. That's why when people work on trying to create lag, they typically play terribly, because it ruins their timing contact point. So, but what you would typically see here is if the club is drooping down and it's casting down, what we'd typically see is you would see somebody has a very shallow, not enough resistance as it hits. They can hit the spot, not hit the spot, and so forth. But it wouldn't typically have a lot of resistance because they're driving energy out. They're casting energy away. Somebody that's kind of overcocked it like this and faking it out, that's fake lag. It's something I don't teach and never will. They'll typically get the club really deep into the ground, and then the resistance is too much, and the vibration when they get up to impact is too much. It goes. Let me just see if I can do this. So the entry level, as it comes through, the depth level goes in too much, and the club won't exit out, which is no good either. That's why you want a certain amount. I mean, you can have different. Proven on the tour, different amount of lag angles for sure. No exact, but that's one of the reasons. If you study what we do about mass and momentum and how we work with the side of the shaft and all that, we give it space so we don't get jammed, because we want a certain entry level. As we hit the time and contact point, we want that club to come in to a certain range, If it comes in too much depth, you'll have too deep. It's going to have too much resistance. The club won't exit correctly. If it comes in too shallow, you cast it out. Then no resistance, you'll miss compression and I believe stability of the club. You can, I should put it that way. Anyway, it's just something that you study, and you have to study for yourself. And it's one of those things where that working on this will fix all these alignments. So this player here, Dr. Johnson, he may be on here tonight. Flew in from South Carolina for a 3-day school. I think he would tell you himself that it was an amazing experience. But he was flipping the crap out of the club. You know, he was coming over it. He was hanging way back. He had a lot of issues and so forth. And when he was done, he was just whiplashing the ball, just crashing it. And the reason why is because 3 days I'd say we spent half of it in the bunker training. And the rest of it was just mashing golf balls, you know, not miss-hitting shots. When we started, he couldn't hit a good shot. When we ended the school, he couldn't hit a bad one. And it's because we didn't use golf balls to do it. What we did was we used the bunker and we did the 10-yard scale. And I would not let him. This is an experienced player. He used to play good golf way back when, and he's just lost his game completely. And we were kind of the last resort. And how I would not let him. He was just fighting me like crazy to, one, get out of the bunker, and two, to hit full shots. He wanted to hit full shots, and I wouldn't let him. And I just made him work the scale. And then he started to see it. Once he started seeing, okay, I get this. The 10-yard scale, I can do it now. All right, let's go to 20. When we go to 20, and he would study, finally he'd figured that out. And then as we got to 30, he realized that he was building his full swing, and then he understood. But again, he's forms. I never taught him how. Everybody in here is probably going, oh my gosh, look at all this stuff. We never worked on all this. He had none of it when we started. What I did is I had him figure it out by using his ears and his eyes. By working on timing, he created all these beautiful angles and all this stuff that you might want to see in your golf swing. But he had to, when he was training originally, he was very shallow. He was casting the club too early. He was hitting behind the line. He didn't have any resistance, and that was what he was doing in his golf shots as well. Once he learned how to create sounds and make noises, then his forms improved, but yet he wasn't working on forms. The problem is if you're trying to do this with forms, as I always say, is you end up with 100 swing thoughts. And then when one of them goes away, you're stuck with which one was it, the one of the 100, or you get lost in the jungle. When you're working on timing, these are natural senses you're born with. There's natural striking senses, sound and eyes, your hand-eye. When you work on these, like we're doing here, when he finished, he didn't even really know exactly why he was hitting it good, which was the whole point. Why it was working so well, other than it was working so well. My point is it was automatically programmed in. It wasn't like that we went through and we said, oh, we're going to work on these angles and so forth, and I think you get the point. But anyway, I can't tell you, if you don't have a bunker, if you have to drive 30 minutes away to find a bunker near you to do this, you find one. If you got one at your course, great, take advantage of it, because you will see drastic results in your game. I don't care what level player you are. If you're a +4 right now in here, or if you're a tour player, or you're a 40 handicap, it does not matter. You will improve, and you'll start. Then when you get this grooved in, you can build some forms off the top of it, on top of it, like a better float, better torque and better containment and all those things. But your containment and your containment will get better, and your grip alignment point, absolutely no doubt, all those things will get better just by working on sound and here. Now, some of you are going to go, what's the sound? If I don't know what the sound's supposed to be, if you listen to my videos and study them, you'll hear certain sounds that I'm making. Yeah, I'm an advanced player and done it for a long time. But you want to try to get that same type of sound, and I'm going to do a video that will show a 10-yard sound is not going to sound the same as a 50. And a 50 is not going to sound, it may sound more like 100, but the speed's not really there. And so when you try to create audio, one of the problems he was having here was when he was trying to create audio, I would say, give me more audio, give me more sound, and he would speed up. And I would tell him, no, you can't speed up. He's doing what everybody does. All of us do it. I used to do the same thing. You create speed to try to create sound. That's the wrong way. I would tell him to soften up and go slower and make more sound. And when I would make him go slower and he created more sound, then he got more resistance and he got more control of the club face, more control of his body, and we moved. We had a fantastic session. So anyway, with that being said, I'm going to open it up for questions. If I can find my button here. Okay. Okay, I think we're good to go. So if you have any questions, just fire away. I think everybody's good.
Hey, Matt, this is Mike.
Hey, Mike.
So, I'm sorry, I was just a wee bit late getting back from the office to get in on here. You were mentioning the resistance in the sand.
Yep.
Or at least that feel. Could you just briefly recap? I think I can infer what you mean, just the fact that you kind of feel it, and that somewhat simulates, what you would expect to feel at contact. I just want to make sure I got that concept straight.
Yeah, so let me pop this back up. Basically what happens is let me just get this. So as he's getting here to the strike location, the resistance is, because I don't want it to be a form, obviously. Is everybody still on here? For some reason
Yes.
Okay, sorry. For some reason there it comes, and now I'm good. Okay, so it's basically, if you take, I'll try to do this, the strike location hit here, and then that resistance, basically, say how low the club is right here, right? Now,
Right.
what will happen with the higher handicappers, and what he was doing would have been is he hit before, he was releasing early, he would hit the strike, actually he'd hit a little bit behind it in here, and then his club was exiting up, which is very, vertical through the shot. So he wasn't getting any compression, obviously, on the ball. It was really odd. But that means that was causing his form, his wrist to go backwards. So what I had him do, and we did this was a longer swing that we did it in, but what I had him do was, get this off here. I had to get him to get better strike location, which we just practiced for that. Didn't take him very long. And then I said, all right, we got the strike location, but he wasn't spitting out. He was spitting out just a little bit of sand. I said, all right, I want more sand. And then what happened was, as he went deeper into the sand. So if I can draw this here, he went deeper, exiting into the sand. And then what happened? His flip got exposed. So he was flipping this handle. That means the handle was flipping back this way originally. And so when he went deeper into it, he could feel that he wasn't strong enough through here. And so what happened was, subconsciously, he just said, all right, it took several swings. He would go deeper, and then he would use this. You can see how he's keeping all this energy. And so he would work with that sand. So he could feel that resistance. And it takes some training. It's hard to explain. I can show, when I do the follow-up video, hopefully the wind's not blowing 100 miles an hour tomorrow. If it's not, I'll be able to cut that video tomorrow, the follow-up. If not, we'll have to do it a day that's not windy. But I'll show you different things that I see in the lessons and progressions that I see with the players. Things that are just like pretty common on how they train. Probably the number one thing is they go too fast when they do the bunker. They'll draw a line and they'll do like 20 swings within 5 seconds, and they're not really learning anything. What you really want to do, I'd rather see somebody do 5 swings and take 10 minutes to really sit back after one swing and try to feel where that energy and was the sound right, was the depth right, was the resistance right. And then when that starts happening, it's just amazing. They start there's like like a light goes off, and there's the player just gets a lot of confidence, and they just step up and swing, and the ball's out of there. It's the most natural way to develop striking. And you can have any style of swing. His form's not perfect either, but it's his swing. This guy beat a former tour player before, Terry Deal, one of our guys out here. This guy can play. He used to be able to play, but then he got the yips. He had a bad wrist injury. And then he went to every instructor known to mankind and got worse and worse and worse. And we was about to quit the game. And then after he's striping it, and he will stripe it for probably the rest of his life, because he's not going to get lost in the jungle. What this doesn't show here, though, I know I'm getting off topic, but what this doesn't show is his brain was going crazy when he got to the school. They talk about a guy that knew everything about nothing. Very intelligent. He's a doctor for a reason. But he has every swing thought in the world. He knew everything about lag, knew everything about flat left wrist, bent right wrist, this, and he knew nothing about timing, and he knew nothing about how to get his game back. And he was working on backswing, downswing, impact. One of these famous coaches was having him speed his hips, slam as fast as you can, open those hips wide open. And that's the last thing this guy needs. He already has a bad back, and he couldn't hit the ball. Why do you want faster hips if you can't hit the ball? And so, you got to hit this thing first. So my point is with him is it took a lot of just listening and using your natural senses, and that resistance comes from going down deep enough where most amateurs will not do it. They don't trust themselves to go down deep enough into that sand. And if you go down deep into that sand and you don't feel the resistance come back up into your core here, like he's feeling here, he can feel that, but he's having to fight it a little bit with his club as well. If you don't feel that, like if you go in deep enough and it comes up back out of that, you have to be able to tap into that. You have to know that happened, or you got to use video. And a way you would do that if you're viewing your own video is if I'm right here, if you see let's just say, he's a little past the grip alignment point, but let's just say that area, you see your club head already this high, that means that that means your wrist have went, backwards. And it could also mean your shoulders are popping up. It could be a lot of things, legs sticking up. There's a lot of things, but there's things that are breaking down form-wise, and you don't want to try to fix all that stuff. You just want to try to just get it down in there and then keep it in that sand along, say about a foot. And then when you do this, I'm trying to give you all the pointers I can give you, all the things that could possibly happen. If you play West Texas golf, your that bunker right there is as hard as concrete. So to do what he's doing is like really hard. Now, if you're in Florida, you got to watch the depth that you're going down into. It's totally different type of sand. So you have to be aware of that. But I would always tell everybody, don't be afraid. The last thing you want to do is be afraid to get down there into that stuff. And then when you get it down in there, if you don't use your body to move the club forward at that point, it'll expose you. You'll feel it. So if that makes sense. And you don't want to use force. That's probably the number one thing. As soon as I tell somebody I want to make a louder sound or more resistance, that means basically hit it as fast as you can. But that's the last thing I want them to do. I want them to do it really slow, and so their body and brain can work together to feel that. Now, 10-yard shot, it'll still have resistance, but it's not going to. You're not really. Where we were at, it's going to have a little bit more. And you start getting to 30 yards, you're going to have a little more sound. Obviously, 30, 40, 50-yard training, you're going to have more sound and a little bit more. Now, you still want resistance on a 10-yard shot, but it still won't have the same resistance, quite the same resistance as it does in reality with like a 40, 50-yard shot.
Okay, so that just triggered a follow-up question.
Yep.
The whole time I was thinking resistance was the feeling of what you feel from the sound, and then when you said resistance on the length of the shot, that sort of implied for me resistance to the clubs taken off out of there.
Yeah, well, what you want to feel, what'll happen, you're feeling this part of the shaft, like when he's hitting here, the length of the swing really is irrelevant, but when he comes through like this, you're not going to need to keep it that low you could if you're hitting a 10-yard shot, but in reality, you don't really, like if you watch even, let me get back here and see if I can find my guy here, but you'll see on this shot, if you watch, you see how he's got a little higher rise angle? So that's the rise angle. The rise angle is what they call it anyway, it's what measurable. So if you look at, let's just say the contact is here, you can see he's got a little higher rise angle right there, right? Well, it's because he's hitting, but he applied the same bounce. It's a little bit different shot right here because he is hitting like maybe a 20-yard shot. It's a small shot. But if I show you, like, let me just pop this up.
Feet and the massive momentum one, a month ago or whenever it
Yeah,
was.
no, I'll show you Roy with a different swing. So if you watch, just gotta find him. So if you watch just on a longer swing here, now you see the resistance, right? Like you didn't see that. You see that divot and resistance of the shaft here, right? And if you look, it's lower. It's lower here than it was the other one. He's keeping it down lower because the lower that is, the more resistance. Because he's trying to apply more pressure here. He doesn't need that. He doesn't need that pressure with that shot, with that other shot. He doesn't. He's kind of, and it's a little different because he's got to get the sole down on that other one, but he's trying to get a little spin on it too. This one, he's just trying to bore it through the air. You know, he's trying to hit more of a, you know, a kind of a straighter flight. You know, he's not trying to pick it up and clip it, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And so that's the why we're. So again, what we're always doing, and when we're training, you know, we're trying to always train. If I can do this here, where that club is staying low through that sand, right in there. So it's made noise. And here's the thing: is I'll have some people that'll keep the club low like that, like it's not in the sand like that, but they'll do it low, but they miss the strike location and they don't get the audio, but their club's low. And that means that they're guiding all the energy up in their chest. When you use your eyes to get that sound down into the sand where that contact point is, and it goes down deep and then it goes forward, you're letting out energy. You're letting out of your body, which is a great thing. All the energy's coming out of your body into now the ball and all that. What you would feel it is in your core. You'll feel it in your lead, kind of in your quad here, and you'll feel it in your core. If you're doing it, you'll feel it all over when you do it right. Everybody's actually could feel different things. I gotta be careful with how I say that because I don't want everybody looking for feels. I just want them to make certain sounds and so forth. And if you train the hit location and the sound and the resistance, if you get those on par for what a pro would be doing in the training scale zone, so like 10-yard scale to 50, 60 yards, you're gonna be really, really, really happy with your ball striking. And the same thing, I'll say the same thing about us. I'll talk about the side of the shaft for a reason. Where you get the side of the shaft, it can give you a major advantage, you know. But that does not mean you're going to hit the timing contact point or make the sound, the resistance, and all that stuff. So, you know, it just what the side of the shaft does, it gives you an advantage where you don't need as much. You know, you really take out the wrist rotation and forearm rotation, which is it's just another dimension that you don't need to have as an amateur golfer. I don't care what, even if you're a tour player. The less you have, at least the amount you have of that, better off you're going to be. Kind of look and see if there's any text down here. Okay. Like I said, just feel free if you have any. And it doesn't have to be related to this. It can be related to whatever you want.
Matt, this is Bob.
Hey, Bob, what's happening?
Sometimes I'll hit a shot and it has good trajectory and good distance, but it feels like the club is kicking at the bottom, and I'm getting a good distance and good flight, so I'm probably hitting the contact point okay. But you think that means that I'm coming in maybe a little steep on that shot or something? I get it. I really feels like the last couple inches of the club are kicking out at the bottom.
Yeah, this would be a good one for you too because you are definitely hitting the timing contact point. Like you're hitting the strike location point. You're definitely getting. I would say if you train in the bunker, I would video it for you. I would video yourself when you do it, but I would tell you to when you find that when you go in a little bit deeper, you may throw off your strike location. You got to be careful with that. But when you go in a little bit deeper, and then that'll get exposed. That's the same thing Dr. Johnson was doing here. He was doing the same thing. He's flipping it like crazy coming in here. I mean, like, if you're probably flipping it a little bit. Like Fred Couples flips it a little bit, and you can play with that but you've got to have the strike location. So, you know, the way the club comes through, like grip align point, sustain zone, that doesn't have to be with every player. That's just something I personally kind of like it. I think you stabilize the face better, and it gives you a little bit more advantage. But it's worthless if you don't get the strike, the timing contact point right. And so, I would tell you that it's kind of like we're doing here. If you train in a bunker with a wedge, just training 30, 40 yard swing, something like that. I would tell you probably for your swing, 30 and 40 yard swing shots, feeling hitting at 30, 40 yards max, and then try to feel like it gets in there deep. The sole of the club gets in there deep, and then feel how long it stays down there. Now you don't want to chase this thing down the line either. I want to be clear about that, and I'll make that in the video. Like I'm going to give you kind of, you don't want to have the club this far down the line either. You don't want to hit here and try to keep it all the way out here. It's going to be probably left shoe is all you need. Once you've hit in this box here, that's it. I mean, it's gone. You've hit the timing contact point. That's applied all the energy, and it's right in here. And then but what you do is you try to feel like. One of my students said it's like he's trying to keep the sand on the face after he's hit into the sand. So I'll show you what I mean by that. It's good. It was a good reference. Let's see if I can do this. So get over here. So as he contacts right in here, he tries to keep the sand attached to the face. And that's about the max that I would ever have anybody training that length, because then you start chasing it forward. That's pretty much money right there. I mean, for him, that's really good energy. Face control is really good and so forth. But it is a feeling. Most people, when they train in here, the mistakes that I see would be they don't take enough sand. They hit way too fast. They do a bunch of reps. They do well about hitting this. What they will do well, and I think why it helps them no matter what, is they'll hit. No, that's wrong. But they'll hit the sole of the club right there, and that's what you got to do. You got to replace the middle of the ball with the sole of the club, and so they'll get good at that, and that improves timing. But then to really get that next level and all the power, like the torque relationship of like the ball to the club face. That comes through, in my opinion, the depth and the resistance, and you would get exposed when you got in there and you went deeper, because I know what you're talking about, where you're coming through the ball and you feel like the shaft's bending back a little bit. You're just flicking it a little bit.
Yeah, it just feels like the bottom is like stopping for a split second, then kicking through.
Yeah, I'll show you here. There's a few guys that do that on the tour too. So let me show you. It's not horrible, but you do better if you had. Now they do get the resistance, even though they have a little bit of the flipping. But this would help you kind of get more energy on the ball. Let's see here.
I have been using that swing thought, keep the ball on the club. That really seems to help.
Yeah, that's the same. That's definitely like what we try to get everybody to do, to keep the ball attached to the face. And this is the training you would do to get that resistance, that depth and resistance. The sound of the sand, and then the resistance through it. That's training you to get that, in my opinion. So here's Couples. Now, because he slides his left hip a little forward, you'll see his grip alignment point's a little bit different, but he flicks that club a little bit right in here. You'll see it right in here. See how he's flicking it? But he didn't flick it like, you can see energy all comes out in that straight line. Just all, and you can see there's that resistance. And then the flip comes out after that, and that's actually easier on your wrist than any of it. Hogan had a little bit of that too, but that's still all style. I wouldn't really teach that. I don't really teach that stuff. That's just going to come out of however you're training. But this is all what you're trying to focus. This isn't a style thing here. This is where the energy comes out. The sole of the club replaces the middle of the ball. It down, and the depth and resistance is there. And there you go. Henrik Stenson does that same move like that. Different body, totally different swing, but same type of energy through the ball. But so you might have some of that feeling, just adding that depth and resistance into your training. And then the last thing I forgot to add in my notes, I ended it a little too soon, was that you want to when you do your training, probably a good question. Hopefully, I put this on the video. Is you want to make sure that you do about, I'd say, 10 swings or something like that. You would do about 10 swings in the bunker. You don't need a lot. You just want to listen and adjust to every swing, or if you got it perfect, just wear it out, and then come out and hit balls. Say whatever you're training. If you're training a 10-yard shot, do it 10 yards. If you're training a 20-yard shot or a 30-yard swing, come out and hit 30 yards. And then when you do this enough, you start to see it's weird because this is most of our training is in a bunker like that, and to create that timing. And so I've done it so many times, I can see lines now. Like, it's not like I'm not trying to hit a line, but I feel like I'm literally in a bunker just making noise, and that eliminates swing thoughts, and it's a very, very, very powerful thing. So I would just tell you that I would go back and forth in sets. There's no exact amount. I wouldn't do it for 8 hours. I would do it for maybe 30 minutes and just learn from it and adjust. But so I think that'll really help you.
Okay.
Hey Bob, were you the one that sent me the email the other day? Did you shoot 76?
Yes.
Very good. Very nice job. I don't know if I responded to your email. Like I say on here, I get a lot of emails, so it's hard for me to always reply. But trust me, I read every one of them. So you don't ever feel free to send me whatever you want to send me. I'll read it. It's just I may not respond because there's so much going on, but unless it's important, obviously. But when I love hearing about all the good stories.
Hey man, it's Brendan.
Hey, what's up, Brendan?
This video you have posted up here in the last question works into what I'm about to ask.
Okay.
This works in perfectly. I train pretty hard to take all the flip out, and I don't know if I have, from what I've been doing, it's my club face tends to maybe stay open too long. My path is very consistent with 1-2 degrees from the inside. My club face is staying open too long after impact.
Yep.
My miss is pretty consistent, a block right.
Yep. Okay.
So my question to you is, when should I be conscious about, I mean, maybe I'm not doing the wrong thing, but when should I be conscious about letting that face kind of, I don't want to say close or flip or roll over, but it's almost like I've trained so hard to take the flip out that now I'm almost overdoing it, and that face is staying open for too long.
Yeah, I think what what I see a lot of times with, of course, you got a really good golf swing, and most guys, obviously, probably none of us have seen your golf swing on here, but I know your golf swing. It's very tight and compact. I see a lot of times that it's the golf swings. One of the problems I see with guys that have been, really worked their tails off in the technical aspects is they get too much control in their fall through. And we'll tell them to cut their fall throughs off. I mean, I tell people all the time, but then all of a sudden they just work so hard on trying to stabilize the face and get really tight through the finish and no loose parts and all that. And if you look at players like Colin Montgomery and Freddie Couples and all those guys, it's totally opposite of that. There's moving loose parts everywhere. And I'm not saying you want to swing like that because that's not really going to be your style. But when guys get really tight and really tighten up all the bolts in their finish, it's like Harry Pinnick says, that affects that impact. And I believe I would try to soften up and loosen your finish, but I would still do the same things. The club face, you would feel what's going on if you were in the bunker, and you did this for 20, I'd say 15 minutes maybe, and just took your time with it each shot and really trying to listen to what happened through impact. You would find that blade's you would find the tension is probably the number one thing. You would find that this wrist is probably way too, and this whole left side is just locked up like crazy. Like for him right here, you can see he's actually very, very, very relaxed. But that looks like he's like a rod, you know, like, I mean, it looks like stiff as a board. But it's very, 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 very soft right there. And because the sand will soft, it makes it kind of, there's two ways to do it. I mean, you can naturally soften up, and then guys fear of flipping it is what, and that's kind of what you're saying. So if you get too relaxed, it gets flimsy, which is not what we're trying to do. So you can get your brain to kind of do it that way, which is a little trickier. Or if you get in the bunker, it'll just start to your tension will make these weird sounds. If you have this, you might be able to make some sounds in there, and you might be able to make the depth, but you'll feel the tension in your elbows and your arms like it's superficial, and then you can start to soften up. You'll feel that, and then you can keep all that. You can keep that face stable without grip pressure. I can tell you, without being tense. I mean, you can just, when I do it, I'm just completely relaxed. When you watch a pro on the tour do these drills in the bunkers, they do them like very, very, very soft and heavy, but yet, you know, it applies a tremendous amount of energy. And I think it has as much to do with trying to control the face, and it also has to do with, and the thing is TrackMan and all these companies, they don't measure the time and contact point. They just measure it's a mass. First of all, it's not accurate, and I don't mean to, anybody's on a TrackMan guy, it's okay. But it's still very inaccurate. What's not inaccurate is the sand. You draw a line right there, it'll tell you. Now, where you're hitting, if your time and contact point is too far forward, which I think it could be in your swing, that's going to make your face too far open. So if you're hitting too far out here past this line, your energy's coming out too late. And so with your swing, your face would be open to that. And that has nothing to do really with path. We know your path's good and all that, but I believe you could have too much energy coming out forward, and then that could throw it off. And so it may help you find your timing contact point, or your strike location, excuse me. It might be, it very well could be the problem. Henrik Stenson was that way. Henrik Stenson had, when he was, right now everybody sees how great he was. He almost quit golf, and he almost quit golf because he was working on too much lag, and his energy was coming out too late, and he was trying to create angles through impact because he had this little flip. What he didn't realize was that was the number one part of his swing. That flip was what got him the time and contact point. I mean, I'm talking our language. I mean, for his language, I have no idea. But I know when he tried to take the flip out, anybody could beat him. He was shooting in the 80s, and he was off the tour really not relevant for I don't know how many years. And he was about to quit the game, and he just started finally just going out and chipping and pitching. I do know that for a fact. And what I believe he did is he found the soul of the club again and said, screw technique. And he just started swinging. And he still has the old flip like when he won everything back. He has a weird career. He played really good. He went off the tour, which usually when you go sideways, you usually don't get it back. If you look at the history of that with a tour player. And then now he's got back even higher, even almost to the level that he was, maybe a little higher than what he was before. And a lot of that was he didn't realize that the best part of his swing was the one he hated the most. And that's because he was working on form. He started working on too many forms, and then when he got lost with the form, he started looking for other forms in his backswing and changing wrist angles and this and that. Then you get all this junk. And so that's why I'm a big believer in taking your wedge out, finding that soul of the club, finding that thump sound, that connection to the ground, and just mastering that. And then you can start to work on the amount of resistance that you need through there. So I think you'll find that it has to do, now that I'm thinking about it, it could have more to do with the strike location. You'd have to just see where you're striking it. And what will happen a lot of times by just working on it, if you get in a bunker, I don't know if you've worked on this or not, but you can tell me. But I believe just by working on this right here, you'll see ball flight changes. You'll start seeing some positive things that you haven't seen yet, just by being able to practice that. Some of us, you don't have it, right? You might not have a bunker in your area, but I would tell you one day, if you have to drive across town, whatever you got to do, find one where you can train. Because it will, one day of it will change the rest of your week probably.
Well, I'm looking forward very much to our course. The courses around here are starting to open, and and obviously getting in the bunker and doing this training. So, just a question out of curiosity. You talk about the my time in contact being too far forward. This is not something that me just placing the ball farther forward would help, would it?
Well, yeah, it can. That's what a lot of times great players would do, especially the old generation, the guys that didn't do all the computer stuff. What they do is just move the ball around. I'm not really a big advocate of that, because what we haven't talked about tonight is there's variable training for this. Like sometimes, I might as well just go ahead and talk about it. But I've got the line where we drew this line for him was where his normal ball position is, right? And then there's times where if I'm wanting to create more angles, and I'll go ahead and talk about it. But anyway, I'll draw a line so I might draw a line right here and say, all right, you can't move your head, past whatever this line, but you got to get the sole of the club here, and you still got to create resistance. And then I'll get this player, and what that does is it creates more energy in the shaft here, without his noggin thinking about it. So then he'll get that. And then I'll say, all right, and then I'll go way back here. Now I don't have him adjust his stance. I'll make it way off his back foot, and then I'll have him hit the same location, and then keep the resistance. So the reason why we do that is because that's how we play golf. You're going to play odd lies, different things, and then you're training your hand-eye. Wherever that ball's at, you're going to find it because you know how to find it with your club and your eyes, not your technique. And so you can have a lot of fun with that. Now, for you, would I move this up forward? That'd be probably the last thing I do. I might move this line back a little bit for you in your training. It just depends. And that would start to release some of the energy away a little bit better. And then you would probably you might lose some resistance at first until you started figuring out impact, but your timing contact strike would be better. And then you could work on the resistance after that. So, but it's a great way to train. I learned that from Tom Kite. I was lucky enough to be able to work with Kite, I don't know, a long time ago, and over at Barton Creek, and had some great sessions. And anyway, this is something he taught me. So he would do that with his wedges. He would just hit wedges sometimes and play them all the way off, like on his left toe right here. And I was like, why do you do that? And he goes, it creases the angle. And it made all the sense in the world, And so it made him focus on it. And he even said, it makes me focus on striking it better, because he goes, the odds are I'm probably not. And he goes, so I have to wake up. And so I've always used that in my training, especially in the bunkers. And anyway, I think that'll really help you. I've never seen the bunkers ever hurt anybody, that's for sure. Like I said, I can't remember the last time somebody didn't come out, go back and hit balls and find. Now, the first set might not be very good. What I mean by when they come out, you might have to do 3-4 sets. You might have to get your feel with it. You'll notice there's a difference when you're swinging in this bunker at first than there is with the ball. But then you don't start using forms to fix it. You start using the same things you did in the bunker. You start using your eyes and your ears to figure out where that's coming from and how you can apply better energy through the strike zone. And then that's what you do. And then all of a sudden you get that conversion where you're really striking it.
Cool. Thanks.
No problem. I'm going to show you. I added a couple videos. I'm working on really trying to work on our putting page. I've got a lot of work to do on that to catch it up to where it needs to be. But I've added these 3 videos. A really good player, a junior of mine here in Austin, and he's got a stroke that we built. We didn't really show how we built it, but this is a great way to train your putting. The first thing there's 3 things that I believe in putting to become great. One is you got to be able to hit it 6 feet straight, no break, no nothing. Put a spot down. Be able to knock. We've done testing on this, and if you're, high handicappers typically will make 5 out of 30. Tour players obviously 28 to 30 every time they do this. So your goal obviously is to get it somewhere. It doesn't require talent; it just requires practice and challenges. So I believe everybody should be able to get to 25 to 30 on this over time. But the only way to get good at it is training and just by working on the line, because the problem that I find with putting, and it's a huge problem, is we get out there, and if you watch somebody putt, I even see it on even on the PGA Tour when I was out there. You'd see the bad putters. They'd drop 3 or 4 balls, and they would just putt to these different angles. One hole over here, over here, over here, over here. And then you'd see the guys like Luke Donald and Aaron Badley and Stricker. They would just put a mark down, and they would just sit in the same spot about roughly this distance, and they would just putt. And they'd spend all their time there, and they were the best putters. And you had the other guys that couldn't putt, that weren't that level, were just putting everywhere. And so I just kind of took it on myself to say I think that's and so we've had a tremendous amount of success teaching people how to build their stroke and get consistent rolling that ball from 6 feet, because 3 feet's not long enough. You can knock it in because there's not enough spin messing with it. 10 feet's a little too long because the green starts to play a part of it, possibly. 6 feet seems to be the number for us that I found, and it's roughly, it doesn't have to be perfect, but 5, 6 feet, something like that, 7 feet. So you start with line. If you get your line right, there's a process to this. You get your line right first. Then once you get your line right, let's say you're knocking them in the hole like he's doing here. Then you go to what we call speed. So you would see on this one, I'll try to play it here. Let's see, I just get to the end of it. What we're doing here is he's trying to get. Let me see if I can. Just bear with me here while I'm doing this, please. I'm trying to show you. We got 2 tees here. There they are, and he was putting from up. You start putting. You start. This he's hitting downhill here. You start putting uphill first. So after you can see this mark over here. That's our 6-foot putt. So he's going to do. We're going to make him make 3 sets of 5 right there in a row. Then he goes to speed. So he's going to have 2 tees here for going uphill. He'll have 2 tees here going downhill. These tees are separated a couple feet. So he'll putt. So I don't care if he's not really trying to hit the front tee. He's just trying to keep the golf balls inside these 2 tees here. So that covers your speed. So now he's not really thinking line, he's thinking speed only. So that's kind of covers some of your lag putting. I found to be very successful. And I don't spend a lot of time on that unless it's a big issue. Usually if your line is way off, your speed's going to be off typically. Now the last one is it's the most important one because it's line and speed. So when you become a good ball striker, typically you'll hit your irons left and right of the hole. They won't be obviously in the hole and all that. They'll usually be pretty good distance control, but you'll usually be left of the hole or right of the hole. And the way most screens are, they're built one way, front to back, or the other way. So you're having a left to right putt or a right to left putt. And that's why when you become a better ball striker, you go putt. You might be a guy that you hit 5 greens, in the past, and you made everything from 5, 6 feet, and you thought you were a great putter. Then all of a sudden you start becoming a really good ball striker, and then you think you're a horrible putter because you're having 15 to 20 foot putts, and they have the line and speed. It's a combo. And if you miss one or the other, you miss the putt. If you're on a line, if you're on the line, if you start this off on the line drill where you're just doing here, that's why it starts there. You've got to hit the line. I don't care how good your speed is here. If you don't hit the line, you're off. And so then you go to your speed. You control speed. And then you go to the last one where you work in left to right and right to left putts on the side of the hole. So you covered really every angle. You covered the straight putt. You went up the hill for speed, down the hill for speed, and then now you've got. So I've got a tee halfway across there for the peak, and so this you'll see where he makes mistakes. So that was a good putt, but his line was just a shade off. Speed was perfect. And the same thing here, I'm gonna let it run, but we've got not a coin down, but shows you how we do it. We just kind of dig up a little area. So that was speed. That line was perfect on that one. This one was this one I don't think was a very good putt. He tried to go too low. So watch this next putt. He'll adjust. Like I said, he's a very good putter. Now, this is a tough putt. This is probably 15 feet. You can see the amount of break it's got in it. And there you go. And so what it does, we're trying to learn. Now this drill to me is useless if you don't have line. And then it's also useless if you don't have speed. So line is first, speed second, and then you go to a combo. And if you're I would tell anybody to be doing these drills in order, but if you're the higher level player, very good ball striker, you can't do that. This is how I teach everybody. I mean, all the juniors, and we've had a lot of success just sticking with these three things, just mastering the line first, the speed second. Now, there's a lot of different drills with speed we do, but you don't need 100 drills. You just need one that really works to get their focus. And then the third one is then you start to see why we're doing what we're doing, because you can miss with speed on a combo drill like we're doing here. You'll see how speed is so important, and then you'll also see, well, gosh, line's so important, and they just have to be spot on together. They have to come together as one thing. So that'll really hopefully help you. There's other videos on here. These will be changing as we go along, better quality videos and a little bit better quality material as well in there that I'll have a little more updated. There's still some really good stuff on there, but this is the baseline of what you do. If you just practice these three drills, your stroke, even if it's not getting better, your putting will get better. So anyway, I just wanted to cover that. But are there any other questions?
Hey, Matt, it's Mickey. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, I'm glad you hit on this putting, because that's been a big question of mine. I probably studied putting a little too much.
Yep.
I've pretty much seen everything you had on there where you talk about the knuckles going off on an angle.
Yep.
The kind of left hand low. Is there any? What I'm looking for me is, if I don't have to think about my line, if I know that my stroke is good, then I can concentrate on, and I can even help my players. But there's so many different ways to putt. I get a little, just get a little infuriated by, what controls the putt. Is it the shoulders, is it the arms? I mean, is there one particular model that you like to kind of focus on and help people to get their line straight?
Well, the reason why I have kind of more of a favor, if you read some of this stuff on here that I'm teach on the online, you would see it's a little bit more pop based. Like, it's not, I shouldn't say pop, but it's a faster upbeat tempo, and like a shorter stroke. And the reason why I do that is because you have to be real careful what you put on the internet, because it's all interpretation.
Right.
And so if I have a pretty stroke, most players that I see when they come out to the golf course, like say, I don't know, 77 to 110, their strokes are way too long and they're way too soft. They come up short all the time and they miss on the low side all the time, and it drives me crazy. And so, like, when I built this, it was like, well, I'll just counter that, so I'll just go with a kind of a shorter, more upbeat stroke, and we've had a lot of success with it. If you have a tremendous amount of pop in your stroke, it may not be the best advice, because that's what we're teaching, a little bit of that, a shorter, more upbeat tempo. But if you study the best putters in the history of the game, and everybody always going to come back and say, well, what about Ben Crenshaw? If you study the best putters in the history of the game, they had short, upbeat strokes. Jack Nicklaus, you pick the name, and if they're phenomenal, they had probably Tom Watson, the Jack Nicklaus, the Tiger Woods, Arnold Palmer's. Those elite Jordan Spieth right now, very upbeat short strokes. Now, I'm not saying they had a pop stroke. I'm just saying they have very short strokes, because it gives you less room for face rotation and variability. And so now, is it the only way to do it? Now, Ben Crenshaw didn't. Most people think he was one of the great. He was definitely one of the greats of all time, but he wasn't the best putter. If you study his stats, he wasn't the best putter on tour. During that generation, he had the prettiest stroke on the tour, but what I care about is effectiveness. And so if you get with the shorter stroke, I believe it's short backstroke, short follow through, and then work from there. And it should be awkwardly, for most people, it needs to feel awkwardly short, because that eliminates the pull across, the face, the slicing of the face, and it doesn't eliminate it, it just reduces it, so it gives you a better chance, in my opinion. Now, where you can struggle at, because it's yin and yang, is with that stroke is just like Brant Snedeker does, is you put him at 30 feet away, sometimes the ball run 4 feet, 5 feet by the hole, because it's an aggressive style of stroke. But I believe for the online program, it's the right way to go, unless maybe there's something better, but I believe it's the best way to go, because they're not probably, most of the players on here don't study the putting enough. If I just look at the views, like I study all the views and I know kind of where everybody's going. And it's just not studied enough, and it's not. I don't think necessarily the material. I just don't think it's the sexy thing to do. But I've got some really good things on here, and I came up with this because everybody's stroke that I see is too long and too soft. They want to look good and not, be good. So I've had a lot of success just shortening up that stroke and tightening it up. And so, and just being, even working this progression here. Now I just put that up, so that's something that hopefully will get more hits as we go through. But it's the way I train every player that comes through, whether they're a tour player or a 120 shooter. I teach them line first, and I'll tell you, when we have this test that we've done, I've got data for 10 years of players that we've tested at the highest level of the PJ Tour, all the way down to obviously the high handicap. And there is a correlation typically. I mean, you see it very rarely, maybe 1 out of 100 that can actually putt that's a high handicap they'll make maybe 10 out of 30. And then when you see a good club champion or something like that, it's 25 out of 30, or 28 out of 30, somewhere in that area. And so it's already not a fair fight before you even hit tee shots. And I do believe there's a correlation of, if you look and see what I do for a living every day, is I study how people apply energy to the golf ball, whether, I don't care if it's a putter or a driver. And the way they apply energy into the putter is very similar to how they apply it with their driver or their irons. They cut across it, they wipe it, and they hit up on it. They, they don't apply, stick to the ball, so to speak. They don't apply that pressure the right way. And so, I believe you can even get better about teaching people how to putt first, to apply energy with the club head, the ball, or ball club, and then back them out into chipping. It's the way Harvey Pinnick used to do it, and one of the greats used to do it. I usually start with chipping because I don't want to bore somebody so bad to start with putting, but the energy loss in putting is the exact same as they're losing typically with a 7-iron and driver. Most people are cut putters, and they kind of like cut golfers, and then you'll have some that are hook putters, and they're hook players. And there's a correlation, not always, but I'm 95 out of 100. So we'll match up that way. So learning how to apply energy into it, I think, is key, and then getting that length of stroke to shorten up and be a little bit more upbeat tempo, I believe, is a start. So where the stroke comes from, it's different with every player. It's certainly an upper body thing. You're pretty much stable in the lower body, not doing much there. But there's different ways. There's definitely shoulder putters. There's wrist putters. There's a combination. What I found is a style that has worked. I used to teach only Paul Runyon style, and some of the old guys on here, old school guys on here, probably know who I'm talking about. But that was because he was one of the guys that helped me, kind of mentored me, and I was trained under. I was also worked with Mary Mills, which was she was a U.S. Open champion. That was her coach her whole life. So, I picked her brain every day when I was around her to find out how to do it. And he had a method, and it was, my gosh, it was very, very, very good. But it's very complex. And I found a style that with the lead hand low, it's not an overlap grip, it's an interlock grip that we go left hand low, but it's an interlock grip, and it stabilizes the face just unbelievable. We've got all the data on the SAM lab to prove it. You take somebody normal, even with the reverse overlap versus a reverse interlock, and there is a difference in face rotation and even with how they swing the path. So I found, and you can find the dominant hand better. So, as a general, you'll see more of the putting going to what we're teaching with that, because we've just seen some crazy results since we started, and that's just been recent since we did that. Because the reverse interlock, if you haven't tried it, you should try that. I've got one video on here. I don't have enough talking about it. This kid right here is doing it. He's a fantastic putter now. Now he used to struggle, with putting quite a bit. And then there's another kid. This kid, he's just been tearing it up lately in golf tournaments.
Yeah, I've been watching that one a lot.
Yeah, this kid's been ripping it. Now, he makes everything. Literally, he puts like, he doesn't putt like Spieth, but I'm telling you, he makes everything. And when we switched him, I had him trained in a running style. It just wasn't taken to it. It was too complicated, and so we just quit fighting it. I just said, let's just do this for me. And when we switched him to it, I mean, just now he's winning golf tournaments, he's competing, and he's going to play D1 golf because of it. And it's just the putting, not the ball striking. So, if your putting can really, it's going to save his parents a lot of money learning how to cross-hand grip. I'll put it that way.
Well, I know at the end of that, Matt, it was a little windy. It was hard to hear what you were talking a lot about his lead hand. Feeling like that it was.
It's a terrible video. Yeah, it's a terrible video, and I would just wanted to make it because the success we had with it and all that. But we'll make another video. The wind was blowing like crazy, but that also I think I wanted to cut that video because I wanted to show you like when the wind's blowing 30 miles an hour how somebody can just sit there and roll it over and over and over. And I think he missed one there, but I mean, gosh, like I said, he's a stud, and it changed everything. And it's just from that reverse interlock grip is all it is. Very simple. But I'll do another video on it, and then there's fundamentals within that stroke with the lead hand low that you can do. There's training drills that I don't have up yet that I will have up that match up with it, and then I think anybody that goes to it. I mean, you can't say everybody because it's impossible, but like I guarantee you, if I was watching on here, I'd try it. I mean, it was amazing what it's done for our players. Made my job a lot easier too because we have to spend so much time with junior golf. As you're a high school coach, you're a high school golf coach. You get out there, it's a putting contest with these players, and if your players can't putt, they can't compete. I don't care how good they hit it; they just can't do it. So much of our time is on putting. At that level anyway. But yeah, I just wanted to show you.
Matt.
Yes, go ahead.
Matt, when you're putting, why do you choose to set up with your feet open?
I found because most people, what we find is, I try to do it show like to keep the shoulders square, because you'll see everybody kind of line up different ways. Like, some will be way open when they set up, but their shoulders are way open. Or then you'll see a lot of players that are really closed. So I just thought, well, you can see the line better. You hear so many great putters talk about they can see the line when they open up a little bit. And with that style of stroke, with the feet, now talk about torquing the feet in a little bit, and then square the shoulders off. There's some things. And again, that's a style thing. If you watch this player here, you'll see he's pretty square. Like if you're watching him, so he's fairly square. He's slightly open, but it's not as probably much as I'm teaching on the videos, if that makes sense. And the reason why is because I've got control. I see him, every week, so I know where he's going. Like when I don't know where somebody's going, I try to make it pretty simple so the feet would be open so they can turn and see the line better, but the shoulders are square. Because what happens when people try to if I was to teach it with your feet square, that square for some players will be over here at that right of that building, and some will be left at the golf bag, and they'll forget the shoulders. So what I try to do is get them to focus on the shoulders here, and of course the club face, that's number one. But all that square to where you're going, and then your feet should be maybe, you don't have to be, but I believe should be a little bit open. I think it helps. And then if you can putt square, I'm not trying to pull anybody away from that. This is a lot for players that really putt poorly. It's shortening the stroke and these types of things. If I was working with somebody, a live session, I don't know that I would always have them open. I would just look and see where they're at in reality, and then we start adjusting from there. But I'll tell you one thing, and we don't have a video on it yet. There's still a lot. I would love to have all the videos up that I know we need to have, and eventually I will. But this page I'm really working on because you can save so many shots here, and there are real fundamentals to putting. It's not just like set up and your own style. If you putt great, you wouldn't touch it. But there's ways to learn how to putt great, and probably the number one is getting the face to aim correctly. Like so, if you see what I see every day at the office, the higher handicaps, even lower handicaps. I had a guy came out the other day, and I'll show a photo of it later. But it's a European tour. Tour player here that's aimed on a 20-foot putt, he's aimed 4 feet right, 3 feet right of the hole. I mean, it's all compensation at that point. A very talented, elite player, but got no chance of being a great putter because his putter's aimed incorrectly. Now, what we did is I had to build him a style. We had to change ball position. We changed hand position. We changed everything to get him, because I don't want him, because the problem is if I tell him, like this player's aimed correctly, but if he was aimed way right, and I tell him or show him a video like, hey, look, you're aimed way right, the first thing they're going to do is aim way left, and they're going to start playing this guessing game. I don't like to, so what I like to do, you have to be real careful with how you get people to line up, because you don't want them to start trying to adjust, because then they'll be all lost all over the yard. So I try to build setup, typically, like for instance, if somebody was aimed way right, I might have them move the ball a little more awkwardly forward, move their hands back a little bit, and vice versa. And I'll do whatever it takes to get it to where they line up. That putter is lined up perfect, because for this player here, yeah, if you watch him stroke it, he's set up. He's going to have a beautiful stroke because he's set up to have one. His putter's lined up. But if he had the same stroke and he was lined up over at that building, he would have to have a reroute or a lot of wrist roll or whatever it may be. But so he can have a more traditional stroke. But if he was aimed way left or way right, he'd have to have some kind of compensation. And with his stroke, he really doesn't. Especially now, he's even much better now that he's been doing it than even then. So we have the 30 ball rule drill where you do 30 balls from 6 feet, and you do test. And he does it really every day. And he's got to now where, I think 3 days out of last week, 3 days he made all 30. So it's pretty impressive when you can do that at will, no problem. So then all of a sudden you're hitting all your lines, and all you got to do is have speed. So, but anyway, are there any other questions? I'm not sure if I answered that last question. If you have any and you want to email them to me, feel free. And if I've ever missed any of your questions, I'll try to write them all down. But it's sometimes I miss them. So if I ever miss one of them, just tell me. All you gotta do is email me and say, hey, you got a question on something, and I'll put it on the video at some point. I'll try to put it up on the next week if you email it to me. But this page I would really spend a lot of time on, because we're coming into that season. I'll be making it better. You'll see each week this page right here will get better, especially if the wind can hold off on us. I'll make plenty of videos to kind of show the routine here, and some of the drills that we use with that left hand low, and then it's just another good option. I would certainly try, and I would do it with that interlock grip versus the overlap. Everybody's done typically most people have done the reverse overlap grip, but not the reverse interlock. The reverse interlock change, like I said, you can't say for everybody, but for a lot of players, man, it's been fantastic. So I would try it.
Matt, real quick,
Sure.
I know you mentioned it on the putting and also the full swing, you use like the coffee table for the baseline.
Yep.
Is there something else that you use to keep the baseline solid in the putting, or you just use
The base.
same thing?
That's a great question, actually, because that's more relevant. Well, it's not more relevant because it's straight. But like the baseline is something you can actually do in putting, and I'm working on a little something I can put together to show you like a better, obviously quality than what we have. But that baseline is that. So the side of the shaft obviously doesn't rotate either way in putting. It's on that base. It is the baseline, So yeah, that's a great question, and I'll show you how that works. And you just control. If you just finally get to where you control the baseline, you start to see it, feel it, and be able to do it. I don't like to. What most people are trying to do is create arcs with their stroke. Like they're trying to create curves, and they do. They use their whole body as an arc, and then they come out of it and they spin out of it. If you keep that baseline straight, not the club head straight, but the baseline right in the middle of the shaft, right in this area here, if that angle, if you get control of that, like you're on that table, you'll light it up. Especially from those short range, 6, 8, 10 feet, you'll just dot them in. Actually, anywhere, and that's what you see Jordan in. All these players. Tiger did so well at, but Jordan, he has control of that baseline. He has control of that face, and so the side shaft's not really working around a whole lot. But I'll do a video on. That's a really good one there, actually, because I've been thinking about doing a video on that one anyway, and that'll make me do it. So. Yeah. All right. So I've got that. Any other questions? So one of the things we're going to do too is I'm hoping it's been really good. We've had a lot of new clients coming in and so forth, and we're trying to grow at another. I don't know if we get to another 15, something like that. 15 players. I'm hoping to open up another day, and it would be another webinar. And we're just going to constantly grow it. So eventually, I don't know how many we'll have, but the bigger we get, the more we're going to grow it. And that's just the bottom line. So I'm looking to get, once we get X number, we're going to open up another day, and it'll be like a short game. And then if things go well and keep continuing to go like they have been, we're going to open up a fitness. So we could potentially have 4 webinars in the next few months. But right now, we're going to stay with 2. And then I'll let you know when we open up that third one, and it'll be it may just be putting since we're in the spring. So since can't be too good at putting. So if there's not any more questions, if there are, just fire away. But if there's not, we'll wrap it up. I think that's it. So anyway, I look forward to the next webinar. I'll try to get this video out if the wind blows out of here tomorrow. I'll try to get this video up in the next couple of days, cut tomorrow at least, and then get uploaded. And I look forward to it. And it's been great to hear all the stories. Like I said, just feel free to email me, and I always read them. So just know that. But you guys have a great night. Great week. Yeah, take care, guys.
Thanks, man. All right.
Yeah, thanks.